This episode is brought to you by Sterling Soap Company. How often do you think about your soap? Well, if you answered, not much, maybe you should. You see, a lot of what passes for soap in stores is technically not soap, according to the FDA's definition. It's full of lab-created chemicals and detergents because, well, it's cheaper to make. Now, what if you could buy natural soap made from natural ingredients like tallow, palm oil, coconut oil, and scented with essential oils, and for just a little more than you'd pay for grocery store soap? Sterling Soap is 100% natural, and with a wide variety of bath soaps, shave soaps, beard balm, lotions, and cologne, there's a product and a scent for just about everybody. Check them out for yourself at sterlingsoap.com. That's STIRLING soap.com.
This is Basketball History 101 with Rick Loayza.
Welcome back to Award-winning Basketball History 101, part of the Sports History Network. I am your host, Rick Loayza, and this is a podcast where we bring to life some of the forgotten stories from basketball history. And we bring old school basketball to a new school audience. And today we bring you the story of Sam Bowie, the man who was drafted ahead of Michael Jordan. For some people, Bowie is nothing more than an answer to a trivia question. Name the player that was drafted ahead of Michael Jordan. Well, the answer is Sam Bowie. And some people look at Sam Bowie and consider him to be some sort of a failure as a basketball player because he did not turn out to be as good as Michael Jordan. But then again, how many players out of the entire 78-year history of the NBA are as good as Michael Jordan? So we cannot really hold that against him. Besides, it is not Bowie's fault that he was drafted ahead of Michael Jordan. He was who he was. The fault should really be with Stu Inman, who was the man in charge of drafting players for the Portland Trail Blazers, who had the second pick in the entire draft in 1984. Now, let me be clear. I am not trying to insult Inman, not at all. All I am saying is that he was the man who made the pick. He was the man who, at the time, felt that Bowie would be a bigger help to the Trailblazers than Michael Jordan. But I am starting to get a little bit ahead of myself here, and I want to give you a clear picture of who Sam Bowie was. He was born in Lebanon, Pennsylvania in 1961. Sam Bowie was a basketball phenom. His entire life, he was so much taller than all of the other kids and far more skilled. He grew to a height of 7'1" or 216 centimeters. That was probably his biggest selling point. The combination of extreme height and skill was incredible. In high school, he was a McDonald's All-American and a Parade All-American. And if you are outside of the United States, these are two of the highest honors a high school player can receive. And in 1979, he was named the National High School Player of the Year. Practically every university in the country wanted to have Sam Bowie on their team, but it was the University of Kentucky that won that contest. But after just 2 years at Kentucky, he began to suffer some serious injuries. It turned out that he had been playing on a stress fracture in his left leg that was aggravated when he came down awkwardly from a dunk. Bowie thought that it was just some soreness, and he tried to play through it, but the x-rays later revealed something far more serious. He took an entire year off from basketball to let his leg heal. But in an unfortunate turn of events, the leg did not heal correctly. The leg required surgery, and he missed a second entire year of university basketball. But after 2 years off from his injuries, he was able to return to the lineup and play one final season for the University of Kentucky. He averaged 10 points and 2 blocks per game and was named an All-American. It seemed as though the injuries were now behind him. He had played a solid season of basketball and was considered one of the top 10 university-level players in the entire country. And that put him in prime position to be drafted early in the summer of 1984. And let us not forget his height. He was still 7'1", even after the injuries. And height came at a premium back then. In today's NBA in 2025, there are around 70 players who are legitimately 7 feet tall or taller. But back in the early 1980s, there were only around 13 or 14 such players, which means that there were not even enough 7-footers for each team to have one on their roster. In today's NBA, every team has 2 or 3 and sometimes even 4 7-footers. So Bowie's profile definitely went up on height alone. And then you add in the skill. He had a decent mid-range jumper, which was so crucial back then. He was also very comfortable playing with his back to the basket. He had a nice hook shot and was a solid defender. Everything about this guy said that he should have gone to a few NBA All-Star games. But the big question on the minds of every NBA team had to do with his previous injuries. Everyone knew that he had missed 2 consecutive years of college basketball. What would happen if he got injured again? Which team was going to take the risk that Bowie would turn out to be a healthy NBA player? Well, the answer to those questions about his prior injuries needed to be settled before any team was going to go out on a limb and draft Bowie. On the surface, everything appeared to be great, but that is why every player that wants to go to the NBA must go through an extensive medical exam. Now, this is a good place to take a break, and I'll be right back with how that exam went and what teams learned about Sam Bowie.
This podcast is part of the Sports History Network, your headquarters for the yesteryear of your favorite sport. You can learn more at sportshistorynetwork.com.
At the Sports History Network, we're all about sports yesteryear, and so we're so pleased to introduce you to Row One, an online memorabilia gallery and shop that brings your sports history to life anywhere. The Row One gallery includes over 5,200 gorgeously reproduced prints of team posters, game program covers, game tickets, advertisements, and more in baseball, pro and college football, pro and college basketball, and more. And any gallery item may be printed in a variety of sizes on wood, metal, canvas, acrylic, or poster paper. And in Row One shop, check out the thousands more of unique items with the retro and historical designs dating back to 1876, including t-shirts, long sleeve shirts, phone cases, mugs, blankets, pillows, towels, and even shower curtains. Go to sportshistorynetwork.com, ROW1, for access to the full Row One catalog and for gallery prints and gift items, plus get a 15% discount off all prints on the Row One Pictorium Gallery with coupon code SHN15. Follow the link on the show notes.
Hello, sports history fans. I'm Ross from the podcast Pigskin Tales. You're about to jump into another thrilling sports history moment, but first, let's dive into today's sponsor, just in time for the holiday season. Introducing Art of Words, the brainchild of word artist Dan Duffy from Philadelphia. Dan meticulously crafts stunning images by handwriting relevant words from some of the greatest sports moments in time. These unique, budget-friendly illustrations are the perfect gift, sparking cherished memories and capturing hearts. Choose from city skylines, sports, history, and musicians to find a piece for everyone. And here's the exciting part. For that sports fanatic in your life, gift them a piece of their favorite team or player's history. Art of Words tells a compelling story. Explore collegiate stadiums, each meticulously crafted with every football victory etched into words. Or venture into baseball stadiums, handwritten with every player from the team's illustrious history. My favorite on the site is Bryce Harper 2021 MVP year. Because I'm a big stats guy, I think that's one of the coolest things ever. Check it out. Don't wait. Order a print today for yourself and your loved one this holiday season. Transform your wall into a gallery of captivating art and surprise your family and friends with a print of their own. Use code SHN15 at artofwords.com for a 15% discount on your order in November and December. Visit Art of Words, where words magically transform into stunning art, evoking cherished memories and touching the hearts of those who you care about. Again, use the code SHN15 for 15% off at artofwords.com.
Welcome back to the show, and let us continue with our story on Sam Bowie, the man who was drafted before Michael Jordan. Now, before we keep going, I want to address something quickly. Michael Jordan was selected with the 3rd pick by the Chicago Bulls in 1984. This means that Sam Bowie was not the only player taken before Michael Jordan, because Sam Bowie was taken with the 2nd pick. So, who was the 1st pick? Well, the Houston Rockets held the top pick that year, and they drafted Akeem Olajuwon from the University of Houston. Of course, nobody gives the Houston Rockets a hard time about taking Olajuwon before Michael Jordan. Olajuwon became one of the greatest players of all time, and he led the Rockets to 2 NBA championships. So there was no shame in taking Olajuwon before Jordan. Nobody criticizes the Rockets for that pick, nor should they. Also, nobody knew during the summer of 1984 that Michael Jordan was going to become the greatest player of all time. I mean, people thought that he would be very good. Very, very good, and possibly even a multiple-time All-Star, but nobody predicted that he would be the greatest ever. So let us keep that in mind as we walk through the thought process of the Portland Trail Blazers. And of course, in trying to be fair, we need to look at this the way people looked at it back in 1984, not the way we look at it today in retrospect. Well, the Trail Blazers back in 84 had that 2nd pick, as we mentioned, and they assumed that Olajuwon would be taken first by the Rockets, so they set their eyes on evaluating both Bowie and Jordan. For the Trailblazers, it was going to be one of those 2 players. Now, remember what I said about height? Michael Jordan is only 6'6" or 198 centimeters, but Bowie was still a full 7 inches taller at 7'1". That is a massive difference in height. Which of these 2 players was going to help the Trailblazers more? Furthermore, the Trailblazers already had Clyde Drexler on their roster. He had just finished his rookie year, and the Trailblazers really liked the way he played. What they saw in Drexler was a future All-Star and possible MVP. Drexler was already displaying flashes of some real greatness against NBA competition, and Drexler happened to play the exact same position as Jordan. So from the Trailblazers' perspective, they thought to themselves, we do not need another shooting guard / small forward because we already have one, and a really, really good one. The Blazers were right. Drexler went on to be a 10-time NBA All-Star, a member of the 1992 Dream Team, and he finished 2nd in the MVP voting in 1992, right behind Michael Jordan. And he is also in the Hall of Fame. The Trailblazers knew that they already had one of the great all-time guards at the same position that Jordan was playing. So that was their thinking as they tried to address the gaps in their roster. And the biggest gap that they had was at the center position. Their center at the time was Michael Thompson, that's Klay Thompson's dad, who was a very solid center in his own right, but he was about to turn 30 years old, and the team felt that they needed to upgrade at that very crucial position by going younger. You see, in the NBA in the early 1980s, the most important position on any team was the center position. As of 1983, the center position had won 23 out of a possible 28 league MVP trophies. If a team did not have a future Hall of Famer at the center position, then it was virtually impossible to win the NBA championship. Some of those MVPs who played the center position include Bill Russell, Wilt Chamberlain, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Bill Walton, Wes Unseld, Willis Reed, Moses Malone, Dave Cowens, and Bob McAdoo. All of these guys were centers and all are now in the Hall of Fame, and all of them have at least one championship. So this was another factor that was driving the thinking of Stu Inman, again, the man who was in charge of the Portland Trail Blazers. You had to have an all-star center if you wanted to win in the NBA, and Bowie, if healthy, looked like a future NBA all-star. Now, in his evaluation, Inman did give Jordan thorough consideration. I mean, how could you not? Jordan was the reigning National Player of the Year as he ended his university career. Inman even had a conversation with Bob Knight, who coached the 1984 USA Olympic team, which featured Michael Jordan. And Bob Knight specifically told Inman that he should take Michael Jordan. Knight said that Jordan was the best player he had ever seen at the university level. Then Inman said that he did like Jordan, but what he really needed was a center. So Knight replied, "Then play him at center." but Inman stuck to his position and he was going to take a proper center in the draft. Now, there were still questions about Bowie's health, and those needed to be addressed, so the Trailblazers flew Bowie to Portland and put him through a 7-hour medical evaluation. It was probably the most thorough medical evaluation that any incoming NBA player had ever gone through, and Inman said that as long as Bowie passes the evaluation, then they would take him. The doctors reported back and gave Bowie a clean bill of health, and with that, the Trailblazers had locked in their decision. Bowie was healthy, as far as they knew, and ready to join the NBA. So on draft night, the Portland Trailblazers selected Sam Bowie from the University of Kentucky. Not only were the Trailblazers celebrating, but so were the Chicago Bulls. Michael Jordan had always been the top choice for the Bulls, and they felt fortunate that Jordan was still available at the third pick. As for Bowie, he played 76 out of the 82 games of his rookie year, averaging 10 points and over 8 rebounds per game, and that is a very solid start to an NBA career. Any team would be happy to have those numbers from a rookie. However, about halfway through his second season, Bowie suffered a horrible compound fracture to his right leg, and over the next 3 full seasons, he would only play 25 games due to those recurring leg injuries. After 5 years in Portland, Bowie had only played in 33% of Portland's games, with most of those played during that rookie season. At that point, it was the summer of 1989, and Bowie left for the New Jersey Nets, where he played 4 relatively healthy seasons. He appeared in 85% of his games for New Jersey, but the injuries had taken a toll. He averaged only 12 points and 8 rebounds during his 4 years with the Nets. Those are not all-star numbers, but they are very solid numbers for a journeyman. And then he played 2 final seasons for the Lakers, and then walked off into the sunset. By any reasonable measure, Sam Bowie had a successful career. The average length of an NBA career is less than 4 seasons, and Bowie was in the NBA for 11 seasons. Now, if I am being honest, if Sam Bowie was selected with the 20th pick in 1984, then he becomes just another average NBA player with a solid career. But when it comes to storytelling, context is everything. And through no fault of his own, the context for Sam Bowie is that he was selected directly in front of the greatest player of all time. And that context is what makes this such an intriguing story. But personally, I do not look down on Sam Bowie. He had legitimate skill, and if he had stayed healthy, he could have been an incredible player. But his legs could not take the pounding that is demanded of a typical NBA player, and that is just bad luck. Unfortunately, Sam Bowie gets lumped in with Bill Walton and Greg Oden, the other 2 centers who were also drafted with a top pick by the Trailblazers and who also suffered injury-riddled careers. It almost seems like the Trailblazers just cannot catch a break. So I applaud Sam Bowie. He took what he had and still carved out a very respectable career in the NBA over 11 years. Now that is something anybody should be proud of. Well, that does it for today. Join us next time when we share another story from the annals of basketball history. That's next time on Basketball History 101, part of the Sports History Network, the headquarters of Sports Yesteryear. Go to sportshistorynetwork.com to find out more about this and other sports history podcasts. If you like what you hear, please hit that subscribe button wherever you get your podcast, and check out our page on Facebook. It's called Basketball History 101 Podcast. There you will find daily historical posts on events from the past. I'll also announce there when new episodes come out. I want to thank my producer and editor, Jacob Loayza. Join us each week as we mine the history of basketball for more great stories from the past. Take care and see you soon.
The Sports History Network presents Who Invented This Sport?, a sports origins podcast that explores the birth and evolution of sports as diverse as basketball and bobsledding. Discover the inventors, innovators, and pioneers who brought sports to the world. Go to your favorite podcast provider to find Who Invented This Sport?, your sports origins podcast and part of the Sports History Network.